Hello, everyone. Good morning. It is a Tuesday. It is 9 a.m. Pacific. It's noon on the East Coast. It's different times around the world, but we're here. We're doing office hours. I know we've missed the last two, which was incredibly disappointing, but travel just put us where we were. So Gavin, Habuma, welcome. So glad to be here. So glad to be back chatting with all of you. My life has been just complete chaos since I last had a chance to talk with all of you here. I missed 2 weeks ago because we were shooting one of our episodes of Alexa Innovators in Berlin. And so I was in Berlin. We had this whole production thing going. And before I get into all of that story, though, let's welcome Andy Haldeman. Andy, welcome.
Thanks, Jeff.
So I was just telling them the story about why we haven't had office hours the last 2 weeks. It's been kind of a crazy time, but I was in Berlin 2 weeks ago, and we shot one of the Alexa Innovators videos. I don't know if you guys have seen those yet. They're on our YouTube channel. We're building a website to kind of host them all, but that's not done yet. It's just really, really cool to get to hear some of the stories of the things that people are building. And so Berlin was 2 weeks ago. I was on vacation last week. I was in Hawaii, which I'm not going to complain about at all, but it was not the ideal time for me to try to do office hours that week. So that is why we are now here this week. And Andy, is that are those peppers on your shirt?
They are, yeah, they're little chili peppers.
Nice. And you're in a different place. Are you in the office today?
I'm in the office, yep.
Nice. Oh yeah, we have a meeting right after this, don't we?
We do, yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to chatting in that. So that's what's going on there. And just to let everybody know, my life is not going to stop being chaos anytime soon. I'm actually headed home. I'm in Seattle, obviously, today. I'm heading home tomorrow. Saturday, I fly to Paris. And so I will be doing office hours, I think, from Paris. Maybe I'll try to get the Eiffel Tower on the backdrop if I can do it. On next Tuesday, and then I think the week after that, I'm actually at my house. I'm starting to wonder why I pay a mortgage. Never there. Okay, so that is the quick update. The other thing that I wanted to share before I start getting into some other storytelling and questions you guys have here is that we made an announcement last week while I was gone. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but Alexa Live was announced. I'm hoping everybody got the email or the information about that. And if you haven't, I have a lovely, I think, the keyboard does not want to work for me. Oh, that is a gross URL. You gotta find another way to do that. Well, if you want a URL that has every tracking value on it possible, I've got that one for you here. So you can click on this link. It'll take you directly to the. It's split it across multiple. Okay, that's pretty gross. Sorry, everyone, for that. Anyway, you can probably just go to developer.amazon.com/AlexaLive, and you can find all the registration information there as well. But yeah, it's coming up. It'll be June 20th, and lots and lots of cool stuff. I'm actually here in Seattle working on some of that project right now, so really looking forward to getting that all put together and telling you guys about all the cool stuff that's coming on July 20th. So, Andy, how have you been, man?
Well, I've definitely been heads down on Alexa Live for sure. It's been a lot of work with that event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're involved in a bunch of the breakout sessions for the smart home stuff, right?
Yeah, I've been help monitoring that and getting all ready to go. And I've been involved. I'm not being filmed, but I had a chance to see some of the filming sessions, and I've not really been exposed to a lot of that. And so it's really fun to kind of watch how it all comes together. It's really cool.
Cool. Yeah, it's a big production.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of work for
Definitely
sure.
Is. All right. Well, I want to welcome Trey Latz and Joel Work and Gavin Watson and Brian Tarbox and A. Witters and all the folks that are here. Thank you guys for joining. There were a couple of early questions here. The first one from Gavin. Andy, I don't know if you had a chance to see the Twitter thread that I shared on, I guess it would have been Sunday night for you.
No.
So I took, with my family, I took the red eye from Seattle I'm sorry, from Hawaii to Seattle on Sunday night. So we landed here at like 5 a.m. yesterday.
Yep.
And I had the good fortune of being upgraded to first class. So we're sitting up in the nice seats. All is really good. And then right across the aisle, an older gentleman, not elderly, but older guy, probably mid 60s, just throws up all over himself and then is completely unresponsive. Like the flight attendant is over, she's trying to talk to him, help him clean up, whatever. And he's awake, but he's not. She's like, "Sir, can you talk to me? Can you smile? That's a check for a stroke," and like all sorts of other stuff. And he's just not responding. Like he's looking around and stuff, but just not even responding. And so they called for doctors on the flight. They had, they got him all cleaned up and whatever. And it's a whole long thread that I had on Twitter. But ultimately, they had paramedics that met us at the gate because we're flying from Hawaii to Seattle. There's not like a place you can stop.
No.
And so they had paramedics. They came in and took him to the hospital. But I don't know the final outcome. But they actually ended up taking him out of his seat. They had him on an IV. It was all sorts of craziness. And they took him up to the front of the plane, right in front of where the pilot gets into the cockpit. There's a little galley right there. Laid him down. He stayed there the entire flight, even during landing and everything. But never gave any indication that he got better. It was a scary thing. So I was kind of live tweeting the whole scenario because the medical staff, the volunteers that just jumped up out of the plane were like, "I'm a doctor, I'll help. Let me see how I can help." Unbelievably amazing. One of them took off their Apple Watch and put it on him to use the EKG feature, which what a brilliant way to use what you have available to you. And the flight staff, I was on a Delta flight. I mean, you forget sometimes, I fly a ton, so you forget sometimes that those flight attendants are there for your safety. And the training they had and the equipment they had available to them was absolutely remarkable. And so anyone that thinks they're just there to give you, your ginger ale, you are mistaken. So there's a whole long tweet thread on that on Twitter. If you guys aren't following me on Twitter, that's totally fine. But you can find me at the same username you see on the screen. And it's one of my most recent tweets, I guess. So I think he's okay. But it's not like I get to follow up and see how things turned out with him. All right. That's enough story time. Let's get into some questions here. So Brian Tarbuck says, "I'm writing a skill that will use an external API for its data, but the API isn't ready yet. So I'm creating another Lambda with the URL as a placeholder API. Any tips or tricks for this approach?" That's an interesting question, Brian. I'd love to understand, like you want to use an API that doesn't exist yet. Any of us that have ever been in development know that that's generally how it goes. Like the API that has the data you need isn't ready yet, but you need to be able to build the app so that like all of it comes together eventually. But you're suggesting that you want to make another external call as a substitute. For me, and this is just me, I often just build some kind of localized randomizer or data generator or something like that, just some kind of factory that will generate whatever the thing is that I need that API to have brought me anyway. And if it's not good enough to just have one static object that you're receiving every single time, then in those cases, what I'll do is I'll build like 7 different ones, or some kind of factory that can generate that object for me. But I'm kind of mocking it out. I'm not really making an external call to another thing. So, Brian, if you have more details on that, on like why you want to make another external call, let me know. But generally, the way I think about this is if the API I want to use isn't ready, I'm not going to make an API call at all. I can build around that, and then later I can just bring in the object from the API that I want instead. So let me know. I don't know if that helps, but that's probably the approach I would take, knowing what I know about your situation. Andy, have you ever run into that? I mean, you play with APIs all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I just usually do like a little stub API in code, but you're saying he's using the Lambda with the URL approach. That's part, stands out to me. I think that was something that was recently announced. Yeah, so he's calling that URL to run a Lambda. I mean, I haven't played around with that new feature yet, so I don't know how many tips or tricks for using that, but love to hear how it turns out.
For me, and I'm sure Brian will add more to the conversation later, but for me, the only gain you get there is the latency of the external call.
Yeah.
Because if you build something locally in the application you already have, or even in the Lambda that you're already running, you won't recognize that latency until you add the API later, and then you might be like, oh, this is so slow. So I mean, I guess I can see it from that perspective, but generally I probably wouldn't make an external call unless I needed to.
Yeah.
So Habuma, I saw this on Slack right before we went live here, so I haven't had a chance to answer you. And I haven't had a chance to fire up my development environment yet this morning to try this. But you said you were having trouble using Ask Run, and it was working fine on Sunday night, but it's not so much today. And you tried it on different networks, different machines, and even new skills, and it's the same problem all around. This sounds like something that we should try to escalate. Generally, the way I would recommend doing this is to open a contact us request, but I will also try to reach out to some folks and see if there aren't any tickets or awareness of this being an issue already. But if you haven't already, I would file a contact us request, which I can give you a link to here somewhere. Maybe contact us. Also, you guys may have noticed that I mentioned for Alexa Live that you guys can go to developer.amazon.com/Alexa Live. And we've been using these Alexa.design links forever. There's been some kind of quirky weirdness with our this URL shortening stuff. We just use Bitly behind the scenes to set all that stuff up. And our Bitly account, I don't know if something got changed at a corporate level or what happened, but the Alexa.design URL shortener still exists. All the URLs still work. But we don't currently, until we fix something, have the ability to make new ones. And so I'm in the process of working with our team to figure out how we get around that, because I think this Alexa.design shortener has been really handy for a lot of people, because you can almost guess them at this point. There's thousands of them. And if you're looking for something, you can be like, oh, what, where are the docs? Alexa.design/docs or whatever. So we will continue working on that, and then they're not going away. But for right now, I don't have the ability to create new ones. So all right, so that is that. Habuma, I will dig into that some more. But if you would fill out a contact us request form, I think that would be a good idea also, because it gets you a ticket and a process, and like there's a lot of formality to doing that that I don't have the ability to create. But I will follow up some people as well. Let's see. We've also got A. Witters. Thank you for sharing the Alexa Live link. That's perfect. Tradeless says July 20th. I think I misspoke earlier and said June 20th, so that's good. Daniel Johnson says Happy Tuesday. Leah is here on YouTube. Yeah, Brian, that's kind of where I thought you were leading. You wanted to externalize the API call, introduce some latency, ensure I can handle it. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I also expect to have to handle various API suppliers. So I would still probably do the same thing though. Like if you're going to set up that other Lambda with the URL, I would probably just on that Lambda have it kind of fake generate one of a number of random objects, so that at least you don't introduce bugs that assume what the object's going to look like or anything like that. You're constantly churning through every time you call it, you get something slightly different. That would be my only recommendation there. But as far as using Lambdas with URLs, I'm in the same boat as Andy. I'm aware of it. I know that it launched, but I haven't had a chance to really dig in and play with it enough to know any serious tips or tricks around how to use it yet. Yeah, and Lolly Labs on Twitch says the same thing. Brian's approach makes sense. You want to move the stub and a Lambda behind API gateway, or this new Lambda with URL capabilities, and then you're just mocking it up, but the skill side would pretty much be complete. Yeah, I can totally understand that. And as you control the Lambda behind the API gateway, you can introduce latency as much as you'd like. Very good point, Lolly Labs. And then Oxygen Box says, I have been scouring the interwebs for examples of how to implement voice permissions. I've successfully gotten Alexa to check the permissions, but I'm struggling to resume once Alexa passes control back to me. The challenge with the permissions stuff is that it's a completely unique, and Oxygen Box, this feels like a thing that you would have seen or checked for, but it is a completely different response type that you get back to your skill. So when you hand things off to Alexa, there's actually dozens of different kinds of response types you can receive, whether that's in-skill purchasing or for something like permissions. And it's possible, although I think it's probably likely that you've done this, that you just need to make sure that you're catching that new kind of response, which should be in the tech docs, and should outline like what that response looks like. And you think about things like an intent request versus a launch request versus a number of other kinds of requests. Like I said, there's dozens of them, but my guess is that it's not resuming because maybe you're not catching the appropriate one. That seems like a stretch because it feels like the thing you would do, but that's my first inclination of why that may not be working. So I'll let you pass more information to me on that, but that's my first instinct anyway, and we'll see where we go from there. Boy, you're going to challenge me on this one. It's on Twitch. Your username is RobotX5, or is it RoboTexas5? Don't know. We're going to go with RobotX5. I think that seems kind of cool. We'll go with that. And you said, speaking of API latency, let's see. Speaking of API latency, can we make the timeout longer? Sometimes it takes longer to respond than the current timeout, or many better tools to help us notify my network and SQL teams. Can we make the timeout longer? No, I think that's probably my best answer. There's a number of timeouts that we can refer to, and I think the one you're talking about is how long can I wait to respond back after a user has spoken to my skill. I think that's the timeout you're looking for. It's about 7 seconds, 7-8 seconds. No, there's not a way to extend that. So the trick here that I've seen for a lot of people, and you mentioned SQL, so I'm thinking maybe you're heading towards a reporting or something like that, is that if you need a longer timeout, there is actually something called skill backgrounding, which might help you accommodate this. You often see this in, I'll use an Uber example, not in the word like Meta, but like the actual company Uber. And so if you imagine that you say, hey, I need a ride to like your Echo Buds or some kind of mobile aware Alexa device. And it says, okay, I'll get you a car. I'll let you know when I have a driver available. You can actually use a technology we call skill resumption. And what you do is you actually send a request out from your skill and say, hey, I'm gonna hibernate, basically. I'm gonna hang out in the background here. And it gives you a token that you can use to then resume your skill when an event has happened. Now, this only happens in the case where your skill has already been running. You say, hey, I need to wait a little while for this thing to happen. So I need this token, and then I can come back once. Like you can, this is a one-time use token to resume your skill. So when the Uber API recognizes that you have a driver, you can use that call from your API to send a message back into the Alexa service, which then resumes the skill and lets the user know, hey, your driver's available. They'll be there in 2 minutes. Their name is Steve. They're driving a white Honda Civic or whatever it is. So you can use that skill resumption technology in the same way to do a lot of this other stuff. So if you need more time, you could actually let the user know, like, hey, this is going to take a minute. I need to generate a report. It's going to be 30 seconds or a minute or whatever. And when it's ready, I'll let you know. And so then they can keep doing what they're doing, or the skill can close or whatever. All of that is fine because you have that skill resumption token, which allows you to then pass a response back into the Alexa service, which then makes your skill kind of rehydrate, start back up. You have all the context, all the stuff you need. So skill resumption would be my recommendation for you if you need more than the standard latency. Because anytime I see the word SQL, I instantly think you're building some kind of report or something like that. And that was one of the early use cases that I saw in the business world for Alexa, was that a CEO wanted to be sitting at the boardroom table and be able to have an Echo sitting in the middle of that table. And as they're talking about stuff, for someone to be able to say, how many widgets did we sell on Tuesday? And Alexa should be able to tell them. Well, as we all know, anyone that's ever built reporting software, like reports are slow sometimes, especially if you're going against a huge amount of data or some warehouse, something like that. You're not going to get that response in 5 or 6 seconds because there's just so much to parse through and filter. So I think skill resumption might be the right answer for you there. Your other option, of course, would be to just say, hey, I'm going to generate that report for you, and I'll email you, or I'll text you, or I'll send you something through some other medium. But skill resumption allows you to reply with the voice. So, Andy, I don't know if I've seen a lot of this kind of thing across the smart home world, but have you seen anything where people are looking for kind of delayed responses?
Not exactly in that way. That doesn't come to mind. I do know that sometimes I've had issues where, I'm trying to debug what's going on, and I'm not getting the response back. And it turns out that my Lambda timeout is shorter than it needs to be. And then I go in and change that timeout and to give my Lambda more time to run, and ends up getting, getting the right result that I'm looking for. But sometimes I've run into that. That's what I was thinking about while you were talking. I was like, I wonder if that's partly the issue. But I haven't, I'm building pretty basic smart home skills. It's not something I'm, spending a lot of time on building something that would actually talk to the device or be something that, a company might build. But
right.
I have run into the timeout issue in Lambda before.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of times where I just try to do a lot of stuff, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I ran out of time. So yeah, it's very easy to hit.
Yeah.
All right. So Huthaifa on LinkedIn said, and I don't know that I have the answer to this one, but we'll give it a try here. Can I ask why the Alexa PC version still doesn't support different languages like Arabic while other versions support it? Is this PC version not important to focus on? Or other questions why when we compare Alexa with other voice assistants such as the Chinese ones, still less efficient, so you can find Zhao still is less efficient, more comprehensive and intelligent with hundreds of applications that support. Alexa could include more apps. I don't know if there's more follow-up to that. Huthaifa, I think I lost the end of your question. It looks like it chopped it off. But the question you have is, can I ask why Alexa on the PC version still doesn't support different languages like Arabic, while other versions do support it? So my first inclination, now I don't use the Alexa PC version, so I don't know exactly what it looks like. I'm on a Mac here, so I haven't seen that recently. But my understanding is that the languages that are available are selectable based on your account, and this is true across all devices. So if you have, for example, an Amazon account that supports the Arabic language, or the Italian language, or the Japanese language, or whatever language you happen to be wanting to use, you have to have an account in that locale, an Amazon account. So when you set up your device, you use that Amazon account, and then those are the languages that are available to you. But it is not possible today for you to have, let's say, a US Amazon account and say, I want to speak in Japanese now. Like that's not exactly how it works. And so you have to have an account in the language that supports the locale, that supports the language that you want to be able to use. We actually had someone on office hours a few weeks ago. They identified a bug in our Android app where when we introduced the Arabic language, all of a sudden the ability for them as someone from Israel that was an English speaker, they didn't have the ability to change it to English anymore. And it was a bug introduced in the app. But they would only have had the ability to choose between Arabic and English. Those were the languages that were available there. But they wouldn't be able to choose German, as an example. That's just not a thing that happens in that specific locale for that specific kind of account. So, Huthaifa, if you're looking specifically to speak to your devices in Arabic, my recommendation would be to create an account in a locale that supports the Arabic language, which Israel would certainly be one of them. I'd have to check a list to see what other countries support that language. But that would be, I think that's why you're experiencing that. Now, it may be, as you mentioned, some of the other Chinese voice assistants, it may be that they've approached this a different way where you can choose any language in any locale. But that is not the way that Alexa has structured this. So that might be why you're having some confusion around how that supports that. Also, related to hundreds of applications that Alexa could support. I'm not sure if you're aware. Some people miss this completely, and that's mostly our fault. But there is an entire store, and a lot of the people that are here on this stream are people that are contributing to that store. But there's well over 130,000 different skills these days, applications that do all sorts of cool things. And so if you haven't seen them, you should be able to go into the Alexa app. There's a store there. You can also see it at whatever your Amazon website is. But as an example for the US, it's amazon.com/skills. I think you can go to any of the Amazon websites /skills, and you can find the skills store for your specific locale. But there are lots and lots and lots of applications that do all sorts of things. So hopefully that answers some of your questions. I'm hoping that maybe you just weren't aware of those things. And if we're still missing the mark, let me know. I'd love to know how we can continue to make it better. Okay. So Robot X5, I got it right. So I'm glad to know that you're not a Texan robot, or maybe you should be. I don't know. Daniel Johnson says he's preparing a few taco places to consider for when I come to Louisville for Code Palooza. If you guys aren't aware, there's an awesome event in Louisville called Code Palooza. The LOU in Lusa stands for Louisville. And I'll be down there speaking at that event later this year. I've lost all track of when all of these events are, but I feel like Code Palooza is in the August-September timeframe. It's at codepalooza.com. I feel like I should. I hate when I don't know, but I'm going to like 6 events between now and then. Yeah, August 17th through the 19th in Louisville. So if you're even around the Louisville area or feel like a road trip, it's a really great software development event. You'll learn lots of things, meet a lot of cool people. I really like that event. And there's a guy named Chad Green. I don't know why his name slipped me there for a second, but Chad Green is the guy that runs that event. And he really gets developer community and does a fantastic job of making that a fun place to be. Okay, deep breaths. Let's see. Catching up on the questions, and then it skips past everything for me. Let's see. Okay, so Robot X5 says it was timing out and hard to troubleshoot because it looked like it was working in the logs. And the timeout happens when it needs the passcode process. That's interesting. So I haven't done a ton with the permissions, like the voice enabled permissions. I should have, but time is time. So I'm not familiar enough with that process, I guess, to understand why you're timing out there. But I'll have to play with that and see if I can't replicate it. But my thought is if you're, I can't remember now. If you're Robot X5, you were talking about the timeout stuff. Yeah. So I still feel like for your specific situation, the skill resumption feels like the right thing because you weren't the permissions one. You were just the one looking for a longer timeout. My suspicion is that skill resumption will get you headed in the right direction. But without seeing a little bit more, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the best approach there. Okay. Habuma said, I created a contact us request for the Ask Run problem, and there is a case ID. I'll mark that down so that we can follow up on that later. Gavin Watson says, I have a question / bug. If you log into the developer console and click to test the skill, it logs you out and you have to log back in again. This is 100% reproducible. Is it intentional or is it a bug? Well, let's do that here together. That is something I can actually do here live on air. On air, is that the right word? I guess it is. I'm logging into my developer console and then we'll do some screen sharing here. Okay, so what we're going to do, if I come over to StreamYard, is we'll do a screen share. And you're saying that when you click on test, Yeah, entire screen is fine. Okay. Andy, can you see my screen?
I cannot answer that question because I'm having some video driver issue and your entire screen is black for me. I can see myself, but I can't see you.
Interesting. It says Chrome has lost permission to capture your screen. That's going to ask me to restart Chrome, which I don't really want to do because I'm in the middle of a broadcast. It's an inconvenient time for that to happen. Okay, well then I guess we're not going to do that right now. So never mind. Well, I'll do it. I just can't show it to you all. So I'm assuming that when you say this, that you are clicking on. And let me clarify this. So, not Habuma, Gavin, you are you're in the console. You can see your list of skills, right? So you're not inside a skill. You're in the list of skills. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to, in that drop down on the right hand side, it says choose action. There's a bunch of choices in there like analytics, test, edit, distribute. I'm going to click on test. It took me to the testing tab of my skill. Now, I don't appear to be logged out. If I say, it's probably going to give me an error here because my skill's not running right now.
There was a problem with the requested skills response.
I'm okay with that. But no, Gavin, it did take me directly to the testing tab for that skill. If you log into the developer console and click to test a skill, I want to make sure that that's, if I'm reproducing what you're suggesting, if you're trying to test a skill in a different way, let me know. But I am not getting 100% reproducible on that, but it's good that you are. We can at least look into your account or something. How can I trigger a skill during a routine? For example, I want Alexa to say a prayer when I start my morning routine. This comes from Lugliana on YouTube. So I think you're asking as a user, how can I create a routine that starts a skill? That's a pretty simple process. I can actually show you this here on my Alexa app. So I'm opening the app on my phone. Then what I'm going to do down here in the bottom is I'm going to choose routines, and so now I'm in the routine section. And then in routines, when you create a new one, you end up with these choices. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. Yeah, enter routine name, when this happens, and add action. And so I'm going to skip all the other stuff. I'm just going to go to add action. But if you click on add action, one of the options that you get down here, one of the options that I get, you can see it's kind of middle of the screen. It says skills. And so, Andy, you like your reflection? Is that good? Oh, you can't see it anyway. So I have news, music, and podcast, messaging, all sorts of stuff. But skills is one of the options. And then if I choose skills, you can see that it actually gives me the option for your skills or popular skills. And so your skills is a list of skills that you've enabled or used in some time in the past. Popular skills are a list of skills that we, based on some analytics, have identified as being popular. But you should be able to use that to choose a skill, and then you set up the rest of the routine with your whatever your morning routine is, whatever. So that's one. The second is that you have the ability to set up. You could programmatically have your skill create a routine for a user. Luke, I don't know if that's specifically what you're asking, but you could also do that. So there is Alexa. I can't remember what it's called now. But it's basically Alexa for routine. So you can programmatically create a routine in a user's account with their permission, of course, so that you have a simple routine for them to use. The third option, though, Luke, would be if you have something like my morning routine, which is generally when I think of your God, all the words are escaping me today. What is it called? Why can't I do anything right today? Your flash briefing. I don't know why that everything's just escaping me today.
You were on vacation last week. You're still in that fog, I think. Me too.
Everything's fuzzy. Your flash briefing. Again, as a user, if you want to hear like a morning prayer every morning, I am certain that there are flash briefings to provide that. And so you can set up your flash briefing to include whatever that prayer skill is or whatever else you want to have in there. Mine is NPR and ESPN and a couple of other news sources. And when you say start my day or good morning or start my flash briefing, it will automatically play through all of those sources for you in using your flash briefing. So all of those are options to you as a user. So hopefully, Luke, I have answered your question. Okay, Roberto Mann on YouTube says, hi, in the USA Amazon site, Echoes are out of stock. We don't know when or if this item will be back in stock. Do you know if the Echoes will be discontinued? No, I don't imagine anytime soon that the Amazon Echo will be discontinued. But I do know that they do run out of them sometimes. I think if you think about how most electronics are made in some kind of factory or something like that, they run a really large batch of them and then they spread them out around the world, and they may or may not run out sometimes. I do frequently see this at 2 times during the year. One feels like around now, and I don't know anything about our production schedules or mapping or anything. But now feels like one of the times. And another time is usually, we usually have like a fall device announcement event that happens in September-y times. And I feel like leading right up to that, there seems to be shortcomings in stock as well. So I don't know if that's on purpose or how that's handled. It's way outside my pay grade. But there are times where you just see them run out. So would love to know, Roberto, what Echo specifically are you looking for? I feel like I'm going to check that really quick. If I just go to Amazon and look for Echo Dot. I am on the U.S. Amazon website right now, and I think I see lots of Echoes for sale.
And the same thing.
Echo Dot is $29. The newest Echo Dot is $39. We've got the Echo Show 5 for $50. That's a bargain for $50. Having a device with a screen on it is a game changer. I can get it delivered by 4 a.m. That's welcome to Seattle.
That's a good time.
Yeah, no, I am seeing lots and lots of Echo devices for sale. So I'm not sure why you're seeing that, or if you're logged into a different account or set to a different locale. I do that sometimes where I'll send something to someone somewhere else. And so my locale or my local thing is set to like the UK or Italy or something like that. I'm like, why are none of the things I'm looking for here? And I just have to flip it back to the United States. So at the top, right next to the search box, there's a little flag, and it shows you what country you're currently shopping in. Could that be the issue? I don't know. But I am seeing lots and lots of devices for sale. Okay. GamerFan Studio on YouTube wants to know if it's possible to connect to external cloud functions using Alexa. 100%. That is 99%, in fact, of what software development on Alexa is connecting to external cloud functions. Whether that's something like AWS Lambda or just some other API, that's more or less what Alexa does. The user talks to the device, that gets turned into a JSON file that indicates to you, the developer, what the user wanted to do, and then you use that information to make all sorts of API calls and information to get the data that you need to respond to the user and be like, hey, here's the response to the question or the action that you requested of me. So yes, I hope that answers your question, GamerFan Studio. Very, very much. That is most of what Alexa does. So A. Witters confirms that also clicking test does not cause an error. How many? Here's an interesting question that I've never tested, nor do I think there will be a limit published. K-Man Studio says, how many timers can be sent to all devices? You want to take a shot at that, Andy? I don't know that I have a great answer for that, but I'm trying to think all the ways
this could be more about that use case.
Because today a timer, you can set it to a device, and I think you can move it with you. So if I wanted to go to another device, I could say, I don't remember the command, but it's something like move my timer over here, or it might even be if you set the timer in the kitchen, then you need to go upstairs and do something. I think you could even do something like send my timer to the bedroom. I don't remember what the command is, but I'm pretty confident that there is a way where you can have a timer set in one place and then send it to another one, but it's always just in one place. And that's a user feature, not a developer feature. But I don't know. So the question is sent to all devices. I'm not aware of any, the ability to send any timers to all devices.
Yeah, I've never tried that.
Yeah, you can send an announcement to all devices, but I don't think you can send a timer. You can send music to all devices.
Right.
Yeah, K-Man, I don't think I have a good answer for you on that one. I'm not sure you can send a timer to multiple devices at all.
And if you can, I don't know if there's a limit. Yeah.
I don't know why there would be a limit. Maybe there's a limit. I've run into weird limits on other things.
Yeah.
I ran into a limit that I don't expect. This is an Alexa thing, but I've mentioned a few times on here that I buy and sell baseball cards from time to time. And as I'm scrolling through, I'll be like, oh, I like that one, but I don't like the price. And so eBay has this really nice feature that is it's like a like button basically, but it's like, hey, I want to pay attention to this later, put it on my watch list, but I don't want to bid on it or do anything that indicates I want to buy it right now. I just want to save it for later. Maybe the seller will lower the price or whatever, and I want to be aware of that. And yesterday I was scrolling through and I was like, oh, I like that one. And I hit the like button and it said, sorry, you have too many things on your watch list. And I was like, all right, too many things on my watch list. That's good to know. I think it's like 200 or 250. I don't know what their limit is, but it's substantial, but I hit it.
It's like the old days with the Nintendo Wii when it told you to go play outside after you played for too long.
Yep. What did I just see? I was playing a game the other day and I was like, don't forget. Oh, there's a cool game on the iPhone. It's probably on other platforms too. It's called Balloons Tower Defense. I don't know if you ever played this, but it's basically like a tower defense game. There's these balloons that fly all over the map, and then most of the towers that you build in the game are some kind of monkey. There's a dart monkey and all sorts of other stuff. Anyway, in between levels, it will remind you like, hey, this game is really fun, but don't forget, there's more to life than this game. Please go find something else to do for a while. And I think that's good that they can be self-aware enough to realize like we shouldn't encourage people to just sit here and stare at their screens for hours and hours. I think that's a good practice. Okay, so Gavin is giving me specific, repeatable way to try his testing from the skill list on a live skill. Okay, I didn't try that. I'll try a live skill. In the choose action, select test. It says test is disabled for this skill. Okay, so let me go to a live skill. I have a few of those. Come on, internet. View all skills. I purged my list. I got rid of a bunch of like test ones and things like just throwaways. And now my list is down to just 76, Andy. I only have 76 skills.
No, that's not it.
Yeah. Okay. So let me confirm his thing here. So from the skill list on a live skill, choose action, select test. It says test is disabled for this skill. Okay. Let's try that first. So I'm on my Star Wars databank skill. I know that's live. Choose action, choose test. It took me to the test console. Let's go back. Because there's also the development version underneath it. If I choose test for that, also takes me to the test console that says test is disabled for this skill. So okay, so then he says he changes it to live. I got a 404. The requested page cannot be found. But I am not logged out. So I do get an error, and that's something to take a look at. But I didn't get an error. I didn't get logged out, Gavin. I think you must not have already tested the skill for it to happen, but it 100% happens. Well, I'm getting an error, so I could see how that would be possible for you to be running into an issue like that. in a specific scenario where you had not tested your skill or anything before. So this definitely feels like a contact us request. Again, the reason that I push you guys to that versus trying to chase this stuff down is one, like my life is chaotic nonsense sometimes, and it's hard for me to follow up on these things. But if there is a ticket number, it's very easy for me to shoot a message off to someone and say, hey, user created a ticket, would love a resolution to this specific issue. Here's the ticket number. That does make things a lot easier. So Gavin, if you haven't already, if you could fill out a contact us request on that, that starts the process automatically anyway. But then if you don't get a response in a day or two, that is where I'm happy to jump in and escalate and chat with them. But I don't want to escalate things that are brand new. So let them take their time to go through their process. And if you don't get a resolution you like or in a timely manner, then let's knock on some doors. Okay. Okay, so Brian Tarbox says, I wrote a skill called Follow Me to move the timer to another device. I always wanted it to be native. Are you sure you can do this? I mean, somehow that got in my brain that you can do that. Let's see. Move an Alexa timer to another device. Manage timers in the Alexa app. Nope, that does not do what I want. You know I'm getting deep when I end up on a Reddit thread. Oh, interesting. Okay. So it looks like, and I didn't realize this is something you'd have to get deep into the settings in the Alexa app. But in the Alexa app, you can go into alarms and timers. And in the timer tab, you can choose to say, when a timer goes off, alert me on all devices. But this is more of a static, like this is your default setting. It's either on or off. But that's an option. So when you set a timer, it will go off on all devices. I think this is one of those weird things. And Andy, I don't know if you have scenarios like this too, but this is something that I've seen occur more and more often in my life. The first time I ever saw this was with my very first smart bulb. I was like, honey, like we got to set this up. This will be so cool. We'll have light bulbs. We can turn on and off just with our voices. It'd be cool. I put a smart bulb in a lamp next to our couch in the family room. It was the first experiment I did with smart home. And I set it up and I had a name and I was like, turn on the couch light. And it light bulb went on. It was awesome. And my wife used it. She goes, oh, yeah, that's super cool. That's really handy because then, you don't have to get over and turn the light switch off or reach over to the lamp and turn it off. But she was sitting next to the lamp. She was reading her book. And when she was done reading her book, like she had done for the years prior to me putting this bulb in there, she reached over and she turned the lamp off, which, as anyone has ever used a smart bulb before knows, it makes that bulb pretty dumb because it doesn't have power anymore. So there is no smart bulb anymore. It's just a light bulb. So I came in the next day and I was like, oh, I want to play with that cool thing. Told it to turn the light on and it's like, I'm sorry, that bulb isn't responding. And you're like, what? Like I just set it up yesterday. Of course it is. And I'm yelling at the Echo and I can't figure out like, how could it stop working? And then I realized that she had turned the light bulb off. And so the reason I'm telling this story is because I feel like a lot of these kinds of technology, when you're talking about things that are happening in your home, they work really well if you're a single person. If you are the only person that ever uses this stuff, works really, really well. But once you introduce family members into the scenario and they all don't use it in the same consistent way you do, things can fall apart just based on behavioral patterns and things like that. So the smart bulb was the first example of that, Andy. But this having all of my timers go off on all devices, my family would lose their minds. Especially like when I'm cooking, like I'll set 6 timers, one for the pasta, one for the chicken, one for sauce, whatever, like, right. And so there'd be timers going off. I mean, my house is probably an exception, but there's like 30 devices in my house. Nobody nobody wants all those timers going off on all of those devices. So it makes sense to me if you have a limited number of devices, maybe one in your bedroom, one in your kitchen, probably makes a lot of sense. But when I have one in almost every room of my house, that's a bigger request.
I can see it like if you had a couple devices in different parts of your house, and let's say that you were cooking something and you set a timer, but if you're in another part of the house, you may not know, or you want to know when the timer goes off, right? Because you could always ask the other device, how much time is left on the timer, and it would tell you. But I think maybe that's the use case would be somebody wanting to know when the timer goes off without having to go back to the kitchen, for example.
Right. That makes sense. So Brian Tarbox, I am not certain that you can move a timer based on my initial research here, but I will continue to dig into that because I feel like I had heard that. I usually don't make up features in my head, though I have done that. But I feel like I have definitely heard that you can move a timer. I just have to remember what the syntax is to do something like that. So I'll look around and see if I can't figure it out before I get to Paris. Andy, I'm going to let you take the whole next one. Can you see the question from Don?
I can, yes. Great question. So Don asks, when might we start to see Matter home automation devices in the marketplace? Is Alexa capable of supporting these today or someday in the future? So just a quick reminder for everybody what Matter is. Matter is a new local protocol being developed by the Connectivity Standards Alliance. It has big companies like Amazon and Apple and Google all working on this standard, and it should make it easier. We should standardize the setup process across devices and make it so that if you buy a Matter device, it should work with any Matter admin, regardless of who made it, right? So you don't have to worry, about compatibility there. All Matter devices work with other Matter devices. So anyway, the Matter SDK is going to be released later this year. And when that happens, then you'll start to see Matter devices likely hit the market. So if everything stays on track, we probably would hope to see some Matter devices launched by the end of the year. But they're waiting for that Matter SDK to be released. Same thing with Amazon. So to answer the second part of your question is, Alexa will support Matter devices. So once the SDK is released, all existing Echo family devices, except for the first gen Echo and the first gen Echo Dot and the Echo Tap, those three won't get the update, but all other Echo devices will get the Matter update, so they're capable of interacting with Matter devices. So hopefully that answers your question, Don.
Cool. And
a quick plug, if you want to learn more about Matter, I recorded a Matter Tech Talk. I think it aired at the end of May. You can look at our Alexa Developers channel on YouTube, I think on Twitch as well, and you can see it's about a half an hour, and we go over many different Matter questions that developers might have. So check it out.
I was curious to see if there was a web presence for this consortium. I'm sure there is, but I started by just typing in matter.com. I thought, oh, maybe they have a website that talks about all this stuff and whatever. It just doesn't surprise me. I had an opportunity to sit and talk with Mark Cuban a couple of years ago, and the guy is crazy smart. He's always looking for the next thing. But if you go to matter.com, it takes you to the Mark Cuban Company's portal. So he clearly is out ahead of this and was aware. I mean, I don't know why else you would own matter.com. But he's always been on the forefront of a lot of innovative stuff on the internet. Andy, do you know how Mark Cuban got his money?
I don't remember the story.
He, I'm forgetting the URL now, but he got in early in online radio. Now I have to know this. Mark Cuban. I should remember this because it's a good story. I'm going to have to dig too long to remember what it was. But he basically sold all of his stuff to, broadcast.com. That's what it was. So it was like one of the first places that you could really do like streaming video and online video and stuff like that. And he ended up selling it to, I think, Yahoo for billions of dollars, like billions and billions of dollars. I'm trying to, I don't remember if it was Yahoo or not, but it was a lot of money. I was looking back. I was just in Hawaii also, and there's a guy there. One of the guys that started, not eBay, maybe eBay, no, AOL. One of the guys that started AOL owns like 20% of the island Kauai. It's because he created AOL, and the moment they sold to whoever AOL sold to first, he had billions of dollars in his pocket. And obviously, buying AOL was never a good investment for anyone that bought them. But it's just interesting to think about some of these guys that got a cool thing and got out early and made an absolute fortune, and owns 20% of a Hawaiian island. That's crazy. Okay, so back to the subject at hand. K-Man Studios wants to know, sometimes when we ask Alexa a question, she'll do a search that we don't want. Why is this? There's more than that, but there's one of three real outcomes that happen when you talk to a device. The first one is it has a first-party or third-party skill that can do the thing that you're asking. So like when you say set a timer, or what's the weather, or open the unofficial Star Wars databank, right? Like those are all different kinds of like preset. We already know, like you're saying a thing that we really, really recognize. The second option is some kind of web search. And this is where it doesn't really know the answer. So it's going to go do a search for you and bring you back what it thinks is the most relevant result. And it only does this with high confidence. So if it does a web search and it doesn't find anything that matches with a very high confidence, then it's not going to give you that at all. There is a third option. If you guys aren't familiar with Amazon Answers, or Alexa Answers, I've talked about this at length in previous episodes of this. But if you go to alexaanswers.com, I think that's what it is, alexaanswers.com. Yeah, alexaanswers.com will take you there. But this is a service that all of you can help make Alexa smarter. And basically, it gives you as the individual 3 questions every day. You go and answer those questions. You earn points, and I think there's even rewards and stuff. But you can answer those 3 questions, and then if someone asks something that matches one of those Alexa answers, your answer will actually be provided to the user as a response as well. And that's a way to kind of grow that knowledge graph, that knowledge base about what's going on with all of these other things. That being said, and if you guys have ever used Alexa entities, you may have seen some of this magic in your skills, but we do have a really large knowledge graph that has all sorts of information about important subjects like books and authors and movie stars and music and all sorts of other things like that. And so we often pull a lot of our knowledge and data about that. But when you get that web search, like, hey, I found this on the internet, that's generally Alexa saying, I don't have a better way to give you an answer. I don't know what you're asking me. So here's the best match that I found for this based on a bunch of machine learning confidence ratings.
I would also throw out there, sometimes Alexa does random things and you have no idea why it's doing it. And the best thing to do is go into the Alexa app. You go into activity and go into voice history, and you can actually see what Alexa thought it heard. And then sometimes it explains more of like, okay, that's why that behavior happened, because it completely misunderstood my request. So I've had it a few times in my family where they're like, I have no idea why that happened. And so that's what I do to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. I think the Alexa app doesn't get the use that it could. But if you ever are misunderstood, you can go in and actually in the Alexa app tell Alexa, like, hey, you didn't hear me properly. It'll even play back for you the recording, so you can hear like, oh, I can hear why I heard that. Like there was some background noise or someone else was talking or something like that. Okay, let's see. I like that Laldi Labs kind of scoffed at the idea that I have 30 devices in my house and that's an exception. He said that's most certainly not an exception, which I love that. That's fantastic. Okay. And we are at time and are out of question. Well, I have one last question from GamerFan Studio. Is it possible to use my Alexa device to communicate with one more user? one more is a weird phrasing, so I'm going to try to answer this two different ways. The first is, yes, you can use an Alexa device to communicate with another user. So, for example, if and I think we probably are, but if Andy and I are connected, the way the connections work for the most part is that the Alexa app looks at the contacts on your phone, and it matches other users of Alexa devices based on that list in your Alexa app. And so you can see, like, if I go to the Alexa app, I can see people that I know that have Alexa devices. And then I could use my Alexa device to call Andy. And I would be calling his device, not his phone or anything like that. So yes, you can basically make a video or voice call to another Alexa user using an Echo. You can also make a phone call. You can say, dial this number. If you have a person's number in your contacts, you could say, call Andy's phone, and it'll call his phone rather than his device. But the way you phrased your question with one more user suggests that you're trying to do like a conference call, multiple people at the same time. That I don't believe is possible today without using some external service like, I know we integrate with Skype and Zoom and a couple of other things. And in those cases, I think you might be able to, because you would just be dialing into like a conference call. And then everybody dials into that conference call and you would be able to talk to multiple. But I don't believe that you can create and manage a conference call style situation from an Echo on its own. You would need a third-party service. Okay. That is it for today. We've done a full hour. Andy, I will track you down in just a minute, and we'll get together. But I want to thank you guys all for tuning in today. It's always a pleasure to be here and answer your questions. And we'll most probably be here next week. I have to figure out what my schedule looks like while I'm in Paris, but I think I'll have no issue getting away for an hour to do some office hours. So we will see you all then. Thank you guys all for tuning in, and we will see you soon. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.